as I said, welcome to Women's Entrepreneurship Day, Denmark. It is truly an honor, a pleasure to welcome you here to the UN and to be so many.
Besides my study for a couple of years, so I'm just here to find some inspiration.
I'm going to talk about Fit Meal, which is the takeaway parcel that we have started in September. Me and my partner, which is another female, Charlotte, she really wanted to come today, but we have our grand opening next week, so we have a lot to do these weeks in terms of getting everything ready. Mad Bodega is actually one of the restaurants that people can order takeaway from.
What I want to do today is to tell you a little bit about the Lean methodology, like in general how it works and what it means, how it can be applied to startups, and I will use my previous experience in startups as an example so you have a better understanding how practically it can work. And then we can just take some questions and discuss maybe some actual, your experience in actual cases. Because for a long time I've been working in corporate, and I actually had 2 startups before I started my company called Easy Size, which I'm running now here from Copenhagen.
We're actually not going to be working specifically on your single most important message, but we're going to work with some examples and a case.
It's from internal resources, external Danish. So I think that she was offering that. She was just not very successful.
But are we almost and decide which, hopefully you have time to decide which is your most important, your primary target audience, and which is your secondary target audience. And as we said before, there's really no right answer, but it will probably affect...
No wrong answer.
What?
No wrong answer.
No wrong answer. No wrong answer.
Og har de en økonomi, der hænger sammen med, hvad jeg er nødt til at få charge for at købe det her. Det er sådan markedsvalgdelen, det er det mine studerende glemmer, fordi teknologien, det er jo det spændende.
Ja, over for dem, så de kan mærke, okay, jeg godt præsentere hende over for de her, der sidder i strid med 500 millioner. Også
sådan usikkerhed, og så får jeg også sådan en følelse af sådan lidt fandelig voldsked. Så bliver jeg lidt usikker.
Bliver du usikker på det? Ja.
Altså jeg bliver usikker på, hvad er konsekvensen af, at jeg gør det.
It's a day to celebrate, empower, and support women entrepreneurs. And the program that we've had for today has really been about doing all of these things. I think it was 2013, a very wonderful young entrepreneur named Sarah Naziri did a TEDx talk here in Copenhagen. And she, if you haven't seen it, please go check it out. It's phenomenal. And she is phenomenal. And she said that one of the greatest barriers to entrepreneurship, especially for young entrepreneurs, but I would say for all entrepreneurs, is experience, capital, and professional network. And as a community, I want you to be really genuinely thinking about how you can help other women with their network, with access to capital, with experience.
The recent Prime Minister of Canada, when he was introducing his new government, a full diversity government and equal government, and he was asked why he was doing that and paying so much emphasis on it, and he just said, because it's 2015. And I think that rationale a lot with this. Why are we having a Women's Entrepreneur Day? because it's 2015 and it's about time that we put some more emphasis into the unbelievable innovation and vision and enlightenment, and you go on with the list that is in the room today, for instance. Investing in girls is the best investment we can do. The world has just decided on the Sustainable Development Goals, as you know. And UN Women are working with all of them, but for us and in our hearts is of course goal number 5 on women, on gender equality and women's empowerment, and that gender equality and women's rights. Goal number 5. And we insist, and I believe it, we cannot achieve the other 16 goals if we don't achieve goal 5. The best investment you can do is in women and girls, and you are leading the way. Thank you so much.
It started 8 years ago in a green pair of high heels at a Women's Entrepreneurship Day in Copenhagen. I sat on a chair like you do now and wondered if it was quite a boring speaker, actually. I was at that time employed in a women's community called Heroines of Tomorrow, Morgendagens Heldinder. And I was sitting there, and it was the first Global Entrepreneurship Week in Denmark. And I said to myself, maybe someday it will be me who lead this. I want to change the world. And it's 8 years ago, and I can say, well, Walt Disney was right. If you can dream it, you can do it. I did it, and now I'm the campaign manager for whole Denmark campaign. It has been an amazing journey this year. Vision from God, not from God, maybe Princess Leia. So let's rock the world together, create the future together with me, and we are going rock on. Come on, women.
Advice, or I guess my recommendation to how do you act in this world that just needs some more time and work before it becomes really equal. I think, first of all, I think we should all believe in the power of entrepreneurship itself. Because entrepreneurship is disruptive. It's disruptive by definition. It means that we're trying to figure out how to break the existing system so that we can optimize something. Optimize, financial benefits or social impact, or in some ways we're trying to do something better than the way it works right now. And I think there's so many entrepreneurs that are trying to do that, there's so many investors that are trying to do that, that at the end of the day, that is going to disrupt these biases. It's just going to take a while, but it is going to happen. And I think we all just have to believe in the power of that, of entrepreneurship itself and the disruptive power of entrepreneurship. And I think another thing I want to just end with is, it's a bit of a cliche, but I would say be the change. It's great that we're here and we're talking about this topic, but at the end of the day, this is about being great entrepreneurs. Whether you're female or not, it's really hard. It's really hard to build a company, and it's hard to fundraise, and it's hard to get clients, and it's hard to build a team. It's horrible. I love it, but it's horrible. So at the end of the day, we have to be the change. It's not enough to just talk about all the biases. We have to go build these companies and be the role models for everyone else.
Do in IBM is we help startups to grow. So both from in academia, being in school, learning, we have a program to support it. We have our startup program that you can come and talk with us about. And we also have a solution for you when you're a mature company and you can go in and be a partner in IBM. So how is it that we add value? And I think that we are about time to give you the microphone. But how we make a value is to give insight to our startups. So if you have a need to know more about our Watson services or our cloud or Bluemix or whatever, then we will put you in contact with an expert from IBM, and you would get that knowledge. You would also get access to our technology credits, Bluemix and SoftLayer. And you would also be able to connect with our experts in IBM and among business partners and among clients maybe, and our sales force.
Next startup, I have 2 messages. Get this woman's contact data. She can get your hosting for free for a whole year. Who don't want that, right? Saving cost. And you get access to all this fantastic knowledge and inspiration. So that's my first recommendation. My second recommendation is, as an entrepreneur, we know it's a lifestyle, so make it a we project. What does that mean? It means get your husband on board. Make it a WE project, right? So I started 11 years ago, and 4 years ago I realized if I wanted to stay married, I had to make it a WE project.
For IBM, that's a set of resources. There are a lot of resources out there. Reach out. Don't try to be an entrepreneur by yourself. Reach out to resources. They're there to help you.
That I call Geek Girl Magazine. So even though it's called Geek Girl Magazine, it is both a magazine, it's also a network, and it does a lot of events for women. So we haven't defined it as women in tech, because we started out with that. We started out with defining it as having programmers sitting down and coding together, doing Drupal workshops, doing WordPress workshops. And even though that's really important, I thought it would be better to actually, with my curly hair, just make up a new word. So I made up digitality. So that's actually what we're doing. We are trying to enhance digitality in women. So that could be if you're a graphic designer, if you're really into writing newsletters, if you just want to get your idea out there. Digitality is really important because it's such a big thing in our world now, right?
But I like to invest some money in some great ideas, and then I like to compete with my bank. Because basically they think, what is she doing? And I'm like, why not? There is no free lunch here in this world.
Maybe you are an entrepreneur. Maybe you want to become one. Maybe if you already tried and stopped it again. If there's another word than entrepreneur, then you can choose that. It could be I allow myself to be a business angel, I allow myself to do this network, whatever is necessary for you, yeah? I allow myself to become an entrepreneur.
I would think that for the company being successful, I imagine, is that you have a future, at least in your mind, that you can see that things, you have a way, there's a way. You can still see a way. It's not, you don't have it on paper, it's not hard, you know, nothing is like this in entrepreneurship. And if you think it's like this and you're afraid to start before it becomes like this, you'll never start. Nothing is for sure. Only money, maybe.
And me coming from the science world, I always use Einstein's equation for energy, which tells that it's equals m times square c. And for me, it's a very good little equation to bring with you in your life, privately and also business-wise. So for me, in order to be engaged and have a lot of energy, and you need to have that in order to get any results in your life, the M in this world, or in being an entrepreneur, means that you need to work with something meaningful. It has to be meaningful, whatever you're doing. And that can also be applied in your private life. It has to really be meaningful in order to have a lot of energy. Then the first C states culture. You can say it needs to be a nice environment, and if you're building your own business, you can create a really nice business culture and make sure that people are being seen, heard, and understood. But that also goes for your private success. And the last C is actually cash. In order to make sufficient energy or engagement, there needs to be money in whatever you're doing. Otherwise, the E will be really small. So at least from a business perspective, think about that. I don't know exactly how to translate that to the private, but one way or the other, there needs to be this thing that makes the whole thing go around, which in the business world is cash also.
I think we wrote history because that's the first scientific formula for success I've ever heard. So thank you for that.
And then a big Danish company called me and said, can you give a speech? And I said, sure, I can give a speech. And then they said, why don't you start up your own business? And I was quiet for a couple of seconds, which doesn't happen very often. And then I said, do you want to be my first client then? And then they said, yes. And then I was, shit. What do I do next? So I called the Teknologisk Institut. I don't know what they call it in English anyway. And I spoke to a very, very nice but probably old man. And he could hear that I was probably having a very young female voice, being very nervous. I said, I want to start my own company. I really don't know how to do it. And he said, that is a good idea, young lady. Do you have a business plan? I said, no. Do I need a business plan? He said, no, but what do you have then? I say, I might have a client. A client? Do you have a client? Yes, perhaps. So what will be the next step? And then he said to me, you need a CVR or VAT number. I said, okay, can you help me with that then? And then he said, oh no, that's tax, that's scat. He said, young lady.
Are working your butts out. What are your next step in that company? And after thinking about that a while, I realized that the only step I could take and the only chair I wanted to sit in was my CEO's chair. And at that point, I realized I needed to do something else.
Of course, the money. So you go from a nice salary and to nothing, you know, like paying to go to work. Because I have 2 young daughters also, and one thing that because I obviously try to install this entrepreneurship as a possible career path for them also, of course very discreetly, but you know, as one of many options. And I've noticed lately that when they talk about amongst themselves, without me interrupting, when they talk about what they want to do when they grow up, they're starting to phrase it differently. So now it's not like, I want to work at the restaurant. If we're in a restaurant, they think it's cool, then they'll say, oh, we should have a pizza restaurant. We should start a pizza restaurant. Like it's more like a natural thing that this will be their business. And I think it's very important to install that as one of many options in your kids, especially maybe daughters, that they understand that this is one of the options available to them, to not make it too dramatic.
Just dreaming. I always use dreaming and visualization for whatever I want to do. And I was like, okay, I would love, the best thing would be that if I could create my own company and I could work in my own company and live, out of my own company.
Make sure that you talk to people who either have done it before or go and pay for help. Because I spend so much energy in trying to understand the kind of systems you need to build. Because when you are having 6, 7 employees, it's easy to look after, kind of. You don't need lots of systems. But the minute it becomes over 10, lots of regulation starts up. So Arbejdstilsynet, they suddenly stood one day in our office and they said, hello, we're going to see you. And they said, how come you don't have a smoking policy? And I said, but I don't have any employees who smoke. No, but this is a huge problem. You must immediately fix it. And we will give you a control visit within, 3 months. I said, oh, sure, we will have smoking policy immediately. So, and they said, then we did one, and then they came back, and then they said, but there's no consequences if people smoke inside your building. I was like, okay, great. The consequences be that they have to bring breakfast to everybody Friday. Is that okay? And she was looking at me. She said, but is that okay? She said, sure.
Similar, I have to say capital. But when that's said, also your network. You know, when I kind of stepped out and set up my own business, I all of a sudden realized that I knew the names of a lot of people, but they didn't know me because they knew my boss. And men in the real estate business, they were so really good at networking. They were playing golf, they were going hunting. You know, did I do that? No, not really. So I found myself ending up going to, football matches because that's where, it was able to meet those guys. Because if you don't have the network, you can't find the products. I mean, to invest into assets and real estate, and I need to know the brokers that are acting on behalf of the clients. So the big struggle have been to build that network. I've been spending a lot of time to go out doing speeches at conferences, giving interviews to newspapers about the real estate business, because I know the real estate business pretty well based on my background. So that has really been taking a lot of time.
Women as an entrepreneur, you have to find people you can either identify yourself with or that look like you a little bit, but are different in different businesses, and talk to them, because then you need to find a place where you can, where it clicks, where when you talk to the person, you understand what they're saying. And that has been actually something that I felt was very difficult. In everywhere I've been, there were only men. I've always almost been the only woman everywhere, and I don't speak men language. And men don't speak women language. And it's even worse. I was about to say the higher up you go, or I don't know how to explain that, but when you speak with a woman, now for example, I have a woman CEO in the company, I don't need to explain 1 million times what I mean. She understands what I'm saying. When I talk to the board of the chairman of the board, every time I say something, he will look at me and he'll try to understand what do I say what I mean? Do I mean what I say? Oh, she's a woman, so then when she speaks like this, I have to translate it into something else. And so, yeah, we definitely need to be where we are today because we speak the same language and we understand each other better. That's maybe exaggerated, but we have a better chance to understand each other. And yeah, I'm sure we can help each other more. Guys, they help each other a lot, and I've seen that. They help really a lot. And it's about time we do that, we women, entrepreneur or whatever we are. Yeah.
The thing is that we as women has to understand that sometimes speaking, going golfing, going football, whatever, all this networking thing, that's where the big business is being done. It's not being so damn structured at your desk and getting things moved from A to B and then go home and take care of the kids and do all the housework and everything. No successful men do that. And you have to kind of understand that, and you have to mirror the way they do. You have to let all this go, get somebody else to do the work, and go out and have these network lunches and dinners and whatever, because that's where you get to meet the real decision makers, and that's where you get the money and everything done. So that's the hard lesson. And I was 40 years old before I got that.
Believe in yourself. If you have an idea, it's because it has to come out. Do it, and just do it. Nike.
Don't stop. Don't stop. It might hurt, but don't stop, you know? Keep going for the ideas.
Finally, you need to have the right people on board. You can't do this by yourself. You need to have complementary competences on board, and it's very, very important that you're willing to share. So it goes for your management team, but it certainly also goes for your board of directors. And I worked in an international management group and board of directors since day one. And without that, we would not have been here today. Absolutely sure about that.
Thank you.
I think my best advice would be that you really need to work really hard and you need to be visible. So go join a lot of conferences within your fields, sign up to newsletters, engage with some smaller networks, groups, and also across various business lines, because that's where you're picking up the best advice. You could use a lot of time spent with kind of equal colleagues, equal thinking people
but where you are really, moving yourself is getting engaged with other, businesses.
Yeah, sorry. I think that the takeaway that I would like for everyone here to have is that we can learn from the guys in the sense that they network, they promote each other. They don't really do catfights so much. Can we just all agree that we're not going to do that anymore? That we're going to make a conscious effort to actually promote other females, maybe even a little bit more than the guys that we know? I think that would be fantastic because we have the power and we just need to take it. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much for this amazing panel. There's an old Chinese saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think I agree as a person, woman, and entrepreneur that the journey is actually the goal. Be happy and find great people amongst yourselves to take part of that journey. And I couldn't have done this without you either, so that's proof of it. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for participating.